And now,
from Greater Sandton and beyond, get ready for the Sandton Times Hour
with your host,
Alexander.
Ladies and gentlemen, everyone in between and beyond, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour, edition 228. It's week 5 of 2026. I'm Alexander Leibner, and a very special welcome to you. If you're listening for the very first time, it's good to have you here. Grab a seat, join the community, and if you are a regular listener, be it on air or online, somewhere in Johannesburg, Pretoria, South Africa, or somewhere else in the world, well, a very special welcome to you as well. And wherever you are, I'm happy to report that all is well in Sandtonland. And manning the mixing desk again is the ever mysterious Vincenzo. Buonasera, Vincenzo. Good to see you again. And yes, the world is coming back into full swing with a few warm-up events this past week, including Joburg Style revealing their latest magazine cover featuring David Klale. They had a little get-together in Craig Hall, and David was there. We had a great chat, and a couple of friends, supporters, family, all there to see this new cover, and it looks great, so congratulations to them. Then I took a walk about the newly opened Emirates campus. Varsity College and Vega are home there, and in the heart of Sandton, and they've got 5,000 students that'll be filling the halls this coming week, and that's a start, and they're going to be growing it. It's very impressive. Let me tell you, some incredible facilities, some of which I would have wished to have had when I was studying creative and communications and advertising and marketing. Really, really pristine and beautiful, huge basketball arena. They've got these studios with green screens, photographic studios, virtual reality studios. Incredible. I'm quite keen to see how that's going to change the face of Sandton as we have 5,000 plus students starting to make their way into the heart of Sandton. Then I made a return to the television screens, but I'm not going to say too much, but I'll keep you updated on the details if you want to catch that. So I had my little acting debut for 2026 already, so early in the year. And then I finished off the week with a curated paired wine dining experience at the Four Seasons. So not a bad start to the year. But more on that dining experience next week. What's on the menu for this week? In a bit, I'll be taking a look at the recent concerning trend of private property being hijacked in Bryanston. So stick around for that conversation. Then I'll be sinking my teeth into the latest burger arrival in Joburg. I'll give you something to get excited about. As always, I then catch up with our regular entertainment commentator to look at the latest entertainment you should be enjoying this week. And finally, I'll get you all the details of an escape to a train on a bridge. You won't want to miss that. A great hour up ahead, so stick around. And I'd also like to hear from you. So if you'd like to get in touch, you can send through your questions, comments, or feedback. You can do so using the email address editor@sandtontimes.co.za. You can connect on social media at Sandton Times. Hop onto the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton 0847263866. That's the one to use. So it's the exclusive Sandton Times WhatsApp number. And of course, don't forget to also check out the website, sandtontimes.co.za. And if you're not part of the podcast community, make sure to subscribe. You get the Sandton Times Hour straight to your device every single week on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon, YouTube, AfroPods, Podcast Party, and so many more. And be sure to like, share, and subscribe.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So building hijacking in South Africa is no longer just an inner city problem. It's quietly spreading into some of the country's most affluent suburbs. And what looks like a secure home, a gated estate, or a high-end apartment can, and in reality, will be vulnerable, as we have seen in the most recent cases that have been unfolding in Bryanston. Now, in a minute, we'll take a look at why vacant and investment properties are increasingly targeted and what this shift means for homeowners, investors, and communities who believe they're immune to this. To help us understand this evolving threat and, crucially, how to prevent it, I'm joined by Rowan Terry, legal counsel at TPN Credit Bureau, to look at tackling property hijacking and unlawful occupation in South Africa. Rowan, welcome to the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you so much, Alex. Thank you for having me.
Rowan, how closely have you been monitoring these suburban property hijackings of late, and what's your take on this?
So I've actually been monitoring this quite closely. I am also a Bryanston suburb occupier, and I've actually driven past these properties, and I drive past them quite often. So it's a very big surprise to be driving around and realize that there's over about 200 people in a normal Bryanston sized property. I think to start off why this is happening, this is now no longer an inner city problem. I think before we had areas like Yeovil, like Hillbrow, where these massive dilapidated buildings, the landlords don't attend to it. So people seek that opportunity, that unattended property, and they move in and they hijack that building. The issue with it is that once a person, in terms of South African law, once a person takes occupation of a property to reside there, so they are sleeping at that particular property, it's very important to know that the PI Act, or the Prevention of Illegal Evictions Act, will step in. And this comes from, first, the constitutional right that every South African has in terms of Section 26 to the right to access adequate housing. So because of this constitutional right, the PI Act then comes in, and there's a very in-depth regulated process that needs to be followed to actually evict these people from it. However, I found that I think a lot of people, it's not the legislation that's the problem, it's the abuse of the legislation. People know that in order to actually evict someone from a property, you need a court order to do so, and they know that that is a long process. It's also the appearance of they won't oppose it, but on the day of the court hearing, they'll show up, and then that really results in another 3-month postponement. People know how to abuse the court system. How I always say it's the best thing to do is properly go to an eviction attorney, so they are addressing everything that needs to happen. But that is exactly what's happening now, is that people are going on holidays, and Bryanston's now being, and more affluent suburbs, just like you said, are being targeted by these hijackers that are allowing 250 people to move into a small property that would normally host 4 people.
I mean, there's a lot of issues to unpack here. I mean, the one is obviously that this property belongs to somebody. It's been taken away illegally. There's 200 people being put into this property, which is legal perspective is an issue. But the other issue as well is that these people are not living a glamorous life in Bryanston. I mean, some of these infrastructures that we've seen in Bryanston, for example, I mean, it's Wendy houses, there's cables being run across trees, there's not sufficient ablution facilities. I mean, it is not hygienic.
Health and safety is a big issue.
Massive issue. Why are these syndicates moving into suburbia?
It's related to the abuse of the system. They know that they would be able to get in there, have in a 4-bedroom house, you're now having 150 people in there. They're taking that rental, not actually paying the rental to the rightful owner of the property, and using the court system to abuse the process, using our legislation that's actually meant to protect us. It's meant to protect the people. And I understand, obviously, in South Africa, it's difficult where, there is the constitutional right to housing. Everyone deserves a roof over their head. However, you have to go through the legal process here. It cannot be a scenario of that people can just come in and do exactly how they please. My disappointment with the PI Act specifically is that there's actually no differentiation between unlawful occupiers, where they had lawfully taken the property and the lease was cancelled for non-payment and then the eviction process was taken, or criminally facilitated occupation. There's no differentiation. So even if you have illegally moved onto the property, which is regarded as trespassing, if you call the police, they are going to be able to sit back and say, we're not helping you, you need to get a court order, even though it is a criminal offense. But I think the reason why this is happening so much is that the people, and I think it's been for a long process, the judicial system, the legislative system here in South Africa, people are able to see how to abuse it. And unfortunately, I just don't find that there's enough of a repercussion. So for instance, this Bryanston home, which I think his name was Lawrence Ramalwa, when he was arrested for this issue, he was given 1,000 Rand bail. How is that any kind of deterrent? How is that any kind of, that's just a slap on the wrist. For him, that's probably one person's rental that he receives in a month. So I think the other issue here is that we don't have enough of an enforcement system in place that will be able to actually make people scared to do this. But the fact that it's being done quite easily. Everyone just moves in overnight. This isn't a process that takes weeks to happen. Within 12 hours, you will then have all those people on there. It's quick, it's easy, and it takes a long time before you actually get held responsible. And in the end of the day, what is 1,000 Rand fine going to do to anyone.
A lot of people might argue that it's maybe an opportunity to maybe revisit this law and adjust it based on what you've just said.
100%. It is something that I believe does need to be done. The reason for PI came in just after apartheid. It was due to the apartheid era forced evictions and to counter homelessness. That has been addressed. And now it's kind of gone to the other side. It's becoming a greater problem for people who are rightful owners of their property in South Africa. I definitely agree with you, Alex. This is something that I think there needs to be an amendment to this particular act. But again, that is a process that would take years. It's not a scenario where I can say to you, yes, they're going to look at an amendment and by the end of the year, that's done. The legislative process to pass a bill, to get it promulgated and get it enacted is again another very, very, very long process.
What can property owners do, or people bordering these properties that are vacant or that could potentially fall victim to this? What can people do to try and protect themselves from potentially themselves being victims of somebody hijacking their property or a property next to you? Because the issue is as well as if you're a neighbor of one of these properties, you are now equally exposed to all kinds of other concerns, be it from a health and safety perspective, whatever.
So look, I completely agree with you. Health and safety issues, big problem. If that property catches fire, how quickly will it spread throughout Bryanston onto the other homes? But the other issue that I find is valuation of the property. You then are trying to sell your property and you've got a hijacked house next door that is going to be on the market for months and you might even not get the proper valuation. So what I would say is, from a neighbor perspective, if you see any weird behavior, people who are moving into the property, masses of people, whatever it is an immediate response to call either an attorney and the police as well. Hopefully, if you do have the right policeman in there, they might be able to assist in terms of a trespassing before they actually move into the property. Then with homeowners, I find a lot that it is a scenario of, investment properties that maybe they haven't found a tenant for a while. Maybe they have an investment property or they live overseas. They only live here for 6 months of the year. When the property is empty, I always would suggest to counter this, get a house sitter. It's rather going to cost you less to have a house sitter in your property protecting that house than the legal costs that are going to come later on. So that's how I would say to counter it, especially also if their properties are unfortunately at that point hijacked, immediately get in touch with eviction experts, get in touch with the lawyers, get that process started. Because a lot of times people will then step in themselves, try and negotiate. That takes months and months because, again, people will abuse the system. They will abuse the negotiation process. Get it to 6 months, and then all of a sudden that people are then starting legal proceedings. Whereas my biggest thing is be proactive, act as soon as possible.
Based on what we've seen so far, are you anticipating that this could become a more widespread issue, or is this more of an isolated incident, maybe an isolated syndicate or operation that has gained some traction in a section of Bryanston?
So I will admit, I do think this is going to be a problem that's only going to increase from here. To be able to have 2 properties in Bryanston hijacked and probably less than a block away from each other. There was one on Grosvenor Road and there was one on Bryanston Drive. Before that period, I'd never heard of a hijacked building in affluent areas such as Bryanston. I do see this continuing now, especially given the fame of this story. I hope that the fame of the story will bring people to be a bit more aware of it, but also it's giving other people who can see the abuse of the system, see the abuse of the court process, and they're saying, well, why can't I then get rich here quickly? So I do think that this is not an isolated event, and this will only continue going forward, which again, like you say, then 100% warrants an amendment to the PI Act or amendment to our legislation.
Well, there you have it. The thoughts of Rowan Terry, legal counsel at TPN Credit Bureau, chatting about this recent spate of houses or properties in Bryanston being hijacked and having dozens, if not hundreds of people being moved in and, as I said, becoming a health and safety concern and, of course, also a legal concern for the owners of those properties. Rowan, good to chat to you and thank you for joining me on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thanks so much, Alex.
The best of talk and music in 1 hour. This is the Sandton Times Hour.
We all love a good burger, and a couple of months ago, I was down in Cape Town looking for a burger, sort of towards the later part of the evening, and came across a Wagyu burger spot in Cape Town, and I thought, wow, this is really good, and it was a really nice place. They had a handful of items on the menu, And I was like, wow, this is a really good burger. It's one of those beautifully simple but delicious burgers. They had the chips that were deep fried in beef fat. It was amazing. And I thought, oh, you know what? Nothing like coming to Cape Town and enjoying a burger like this. Only to discover a couple of weeks ago that they have made their way up to Johannesburg, and they're opening up at 9 Yards in Rosebank, and it's called Zuney Burgers. If you haven't had one, I encourage you right now to go and try it, but I'm thrilled to be joined by the co-director of Zuney, Henning Klopper. And Henning, it's good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you so much, Alexander. Really looking forward to chatting.
Henning, tell us a little bit more about the whole concept. I mean, how did you get started making hamburgers, never mind Wagyu burgers?
In 2014, my dad and my business partner's dad, my dad is Henning Klopper and my business partner's dad is Dennis Wells. They're neighbors and best friends. They've been farming Wagyu since then. And during that hard lockdown during COVID, Devin and I, the other son from the other family, we were driving around the farm and we both said, listen, we kind of see our dad struggling to get the animals on the farm. We see a lot of potential with Wagyu. And that's when we joined the team and almost took the product to market in 2014. This burger side is a secondary business of ours. We've got an online business where we guarantee delivery of our Wagyu steaks anywhere in South Africa. So you can be Lephalale, Sutherland, Durban, Cape Town, Joburg, you name it, we deliver it to your door. That's on the website, zuneywagyu.com. And so we've been running that since 2021, still doing very well. But what we noticed is that because we raise Wagyu for 3 years, you get quite a large carcass weight. Now, of that carcass weight is normally about 500 kilograms. People don't realize, but all your main primals, such as your ribeye, sirloin, rump, fillet, that's only 60 to 70 kilograms, which is essentially 12% of the animal. So trim or mince is 220 kilograms, which is 44%. So we always just used to say we're just glorified patty salesmen, and our main business is sell patties. And then that's when we came up with the burger concept to it's a bit easier to take a product like that to market and create a cool brand around it. And so then we opened up on 28 September 2023 in Kruger Street in Cape Town. And that's been doing very well. We've got a ghost kitchen also at the waterfront. And then we opened up Rosebank on 13 December last year.
Unbelievable.
Very exciting.
Yeah, and fantastic that you're in Johannesburg. And what's your Johannesburg experience been like? How does it differ from Cape Town?
It's wow. Joburg is crazy. I'm not going to lie. We thought we'd open halfway through December and just fly under the radar, get our systems in place. And yes, it's really been amazing. We've had queues of people the whole time and just we really just want to focus on quality, not quantity. The Joburg market's brought the quantity, that's for sure. But yeah, essentially our focus is on the quality. So it's been an amazing experience so far, having an awesome time in Joburg, and yeah, looking forward to growing the brand within the Gauteng market.
Look, for the unconverted, Wagyu has become a big thing on restaurant menus. I think it's been growing more and more. But for those who are not familiar with the concept of what a Wagyu beef piece or slice looks like, what makes Wagyu so different to a normal steak?
So Wagyu means our cattle in Japanese. It was in the late 60s, a guy called Mr. Takeda in Japan exported all of these animals around the world to America and Australia. Then in the late 80s, roughly, Japan realized that him and a few other people are leaking their IP. So they've actually closed their borders. So today, you can't export any live animals, embryos, semen out of Japan. So everything that we eat today is all traceable back to Japan. So for Wagyu in South Africa, I actually used to be on the Wagyu board for 2 years. I ended my term in September. I was head of marketing and product support for Wagyu South Africa. But the big thing is that it has to be DNA verified and traceable. So whenever you buy Wagyu, just ask if it's certified. Now, what makes Wagyu different is that it's got marbling, which is intramuscular fat, and it's also more tender. So normal beef in South Africa is normally 12 to 18 months, numbers just through a feedlot, where Wagyu is normally raised for about 3 years. So it's interesting, but on a world stage, it's older beef is actually becoming better for you because it's got more flavor. So Wagyu kind of combines all of those factors to give a tender product that's high in marbling and also very delicious and buttery and melt in your mouth flavors.
Well, that's exactly what you get in the burger. How would you say that translates into your burgers? Like, how does that change the burger experience?
So it definitely makes it slightly more rich, but that's what we want. And for us, the whole thing is just to ensure we sustainably harvest the animal and give it its respect that it's due and utilize all bits. So all of the mince everything else goes to making the burgers. Then we also make pet mince from it. We also make bone broth. So we really try and utilize every single bit of it. So at the end of the day, when you're eating a product from us, you know that we can tell you exactly what it ate, how it was raised, everything from start to finish. So yeah, that's a big difference for us on our burgers. But obviously, it is Wagyu, it is slightly more rich. A very interesting thing that we also do is we do Wagyu fries. So instead of using seed oils, we cook our fries in Wagyu tallow, which we cook on the farm and then send it across the country.
Yeah, they're a vibe, let me tell you. These fries, they slap. So if you haven't had them yet, go and make your way to 9 Yards and go try them. Tell me about the name. How did you come up with the name Zuney? And what does it mean? Like, what does that translate into?
Zuney is the valley that we farm in the Eastern Cape. So it's, as I was mentioned earlier, it's our dads that are the farmers, and then we buy it off them. So literally our farmers in the Zuney Valley. And so we're paying homage to where we're from because our meat has a distinct different flavor, and that's due to the grass and the thorny bush and things like that the cattle eat on the farm.
What can people expect if they walk into your store? What have you got on the menu? Are you planning to expand this in any way going into 2026?
We have a very focused menu. We've got 3 burgers, a classic, a cheese, and a vacant burger. Classic burgers, our meat, light brioche bun, Wagyu infused onions, pickles, and a house sauce. The cheese is exactly the same as the classic. We just add cheese onto it. And then our vacant is Wagyu brisket, which we cure, cold smoke for 6 hours and slice thin, and we add that onto the cheeseburger. So those are the 3 Wagyu burgers really focused on our menu. We've also got a vegan burger, which is the grass that our cattle eat on the farm. We just shred it and form it into a patty. I'm joking. It's not the grass that the cattle eat on the farm. It is tempeh, which is tempeh and black beans with panko crumb. And we add a mushroom truffle sauce onto it to make it rich like our Wagyu burger. And then we've got Wagyu fries and sweet potato fries. So super focused menu, really just trying to focus on quality instead of making it a big complex menu and things like that.
Well, I've said so. If you haven't tried it, you're going to go and try it, and you're going to be going back for more. Henning Klopper, the co-director of Zuney's, opening at 9 Yards in Rosebank. I think it used to be called Keith Kirsten's. Now it's called the Garden Shop.
Yes.
They've expanded.
Yes.
Go check it out. We'll put the details up on the website as well. And Henning Klopper, it's been such a pleasure having you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you so much, Alexander. Really appreciate your time.
You're listening to the Sandton Times Hour.
So as we head into the second half of the Sandton Times Hour, my name is Alexander Leipner. If there's anything that you caught on the show and you didn't get the details, well, we endeavor to put all the information up on the website, sandtontimes.co.za. You can check out the show notes for some more details, a breakdown, additional links, and reading for you, covering all the things discussed on the show this week, as well as a chance for you to connect on social media at Sandton Times. Pick your favorite social media platform and subscribe to the Sandton Times there, or follow the Sandton Times. You can also connect on the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton. 084-726-3866. And feel free to send through your voice messages, voice notes, text messages, media, and so much more. And that's the exclusive Sandton Times WhatsApp number. As we do every single week around about this time, it's time to connect with Tat Wolfen, our regular entertainment commentator. And Tat, what's been happening on our screens this past week?
Today I want to talk about something very special that's come up on streaming, but would you allow me to begin with an analogy? Are you in the mood for an analogy?
Let's do it, man. Let's do it.
Alrighty. Okay, so now I have a whole lot of handcrafted antique furniture at home, right?
Right.
Now, if I wanted to sell it, I would have difficulty doing so. I mean, it's made of beautiful teak. It's, as I say, it's all handcrafted and everything. I would have difficulty selling it because most people want tables made of aluminium and glass because it looks flashy and nice. You see, that even rhymed.
Yeah.
Okay. And so it is with movies. There are some movies that are beautifully made, carefully made, quality products, but they just don't go down at the box office. And which brings me to today's movie, which I don't think was released on the cinema circuit locally, but fortunately it has been released on Showmax. And it's a movie that froze me in my seat because of its poetic beauty, both visually and emotionally. And I guess it's kind of apt that it froze me in my seat because it comes from an Icelandic director.
Okay.
Okay. The film is called Touch, and who would have thought that there's even a film industry in Iceland? But clearly there is.
Sure.
And this is a story that spans more than 50 years and 3 countries, Iceland, England, and Japan. Mm-hmm. And please bear in mind, valued listeners, that as usual, I'll be setting up the film, but I won't be giving away any spoilers as to the narrative content. So, set in the year 2020, it tells of Christopher, a divorced man in his 70s, who's come to learn that he may not have much more time left on this globe. And as would happen to most people at such a stage of their lives, his attentions turn to unfinished business. So his mind starts dwelling on a Japanese girl that he had loved in 1969 when he'd been studying at the London School of Economics. And back then he'd been filled with socialist fervor, so he chucked up his studies in favor of being a working man in a Japanese restaurant. And it was there that he'd met the lovely Miko and created memories that he could never shake. So back to 2020 now, and Christopher's mind is made up. He shuts down his restaurant and he embarks on an odyssey, I suppose you'd call it, to find Miko. So the film rocks back and forth between 1969 and 2020, the idyllic days of his youth and the mission that he now undertakes to find Miko. And I've got to tell you, Alex, there's this quiet stillness of the film, but it's overlaid over an emotional power, but that never descends into melodrama. And it does have some understated but breathtaking romantic moments that remind us actually how cheap and chintzy Hollywood romance movies can be. And the actors who play both Christopher and Miko, both in their young and older versions, give these luminous interpretations. And the film has so many more layers than purely that of a love story that's buried under the weight of decades. It's about the sad beauty of wrapping up the elements of a life, of adding up the books, so to speak, of life's gains and losses. And the film is also alive with the scenic wonders of faraway places. Okay, so many of us know London, but how many of us know Iceland and Japan? So I just have to tell you, I'm breathless here, and I was almost going to say I'm without words, but as you know, I'm seldom without words.
Yes.
Okay. I managed to find them somehow. The direction and cinematography as well are so measured and mature, and this film was so delicately crafted, so thoughtful, that I didn't want it to end. Do you know when you watch a movie where you just think, I'm cool here, I'm settled, I've got something to eat, I've got something to drink at hand, and yeah, if you want to be 6 hours long, then go ahead, and that's. And trust me, most of these days when I go to see these Christopher Nolan movies, 3 hours, or Avatar 3.5 hours, whatever, I've been wanting them to end like from about 90 minutes in,
Yeah.
But this was one movie that I didn't want to end, and it's called Touch. It's currently streaming on Showmax, and as you might have guessed by now, because I think you're quite perceptive, I can't recommend it enough.
And we would have played you the trailer as well, but I don't think many people speak Icelandic or Japanese listening to the show. So you're going to have to watch it with subtitles, because I believe the movie is in both languages.
Well, the movie is actually, it spans 3 languages, although it's mainly in English. It is mainly in English,
Yeah.
but there's parts that are in Japanese and small parts that are in Icelandic as well. So it's truly international, although it's mainly in English.
Tremendous. Well, there you have it again. Tat, thank you for connecting, and thanks for your recommendation. Touch, go check it out on Showmax. And Tat, we're going to do it all again next week.
I look forward to it as usual. Cheers, Alex.
The latest news.
The biggest names.
The best destinations.
The hottest entertainment. This is the Sandton Times Hour.
This is the Sandton Times Hour, and last week we touched on one of the places I had a chance to visit over the festive season, and this was Kruger Shalati, the train on the bridge. And there's a few places on earth that blur the line quite like this luxurious, historical and wild place called Kruger Shalati, and it's suspended above the Sabi River in the heart of the Kruger National Park. It's a destination that has captured global attention for reimagining a historic railway bridge into one of Africa's most extraordinary safari experiences. They've marked a significant anniversary in 2025, and I'm joined by Gavin Ferreira, the General Manager of Kruger Shalati and the Train on the Bridge, to unpack the story behind this iconic property, from its bold conception and operational realities inside a national park to how it continues to redefine luxury tourism in one of the world's greatest wildlife sanctuaries. And Gavin, it's good to have you on the Sandton Times Hour.
Nice to be here. Thanks for the invite.
Gavin, Kruger Shalati, the train on the bridge. I mean, the name kind of really gives away a bit of an idea of what people can expect, but one of South Africa's most distinctive safari properties, if there is one that I've come across. Can you share the history behind the train and the bridge, and how this remarkable site just sort of all came together and was transformed into this hospitality experience?
Kruger Shalati Train on the Bridge, we didn't want to leave it to the imagination. We really sort of had to make sure that the naming right didn't leave our guests or potential guests guessing what the experience would be. But we have to take a small step back into history to look as to the real sort of origins of this story that really has created an incredible and very unique safari destination now in Kruger National Park. There was an old bridge that was built sort of, or was started to be built in the early 1800s, and this was built because there was some gold that was discovered in the Komatipoort area. Over the various wars and disruptions to the building process, in about early 1900s, the bridge was finally completed. Significantly after, the Kruger National Park was cordoned off by Stevenson Hamilton, to try and get the South African public and everyone else traveling to appreciate the wildlife for what it is, and not necessarily only for hunting. Sparked an incredible journey that now is the Kruger National Park, and one of the iconic, when you look back at history, is that the only way that you could actually get to the Kruger National Park in the 1900s was by train, before the roads were actually, or the infrastructure was laid. When we look back, we found that the Sabi Shalati Bridge had been used for that tourism journey through the park. We did a deep delve into what that could mean for incorporating this nostalgic train travel and experience on the bridge, but also how do we blend the past and the future of this incredible landscape that we operated in probably the best country in the world, in our opinion, because we have so much to offer our guests, whether domestic and or international. And so we created this board where we really wanted to recreate this time by, the train would literally commute to literally where the train is currently. It would stop on the northern or southern side of the bridge. Guests would sort of alight from the train, get out, have a banquet. They used to roll out the old grand piano and have a proper feast on the shores of the Sabi River, which it must have been completely wild and absolutely its own experience in its own right. And then get back onto the train when it was getting dark. The train would then pull onto the bridge. The guests would then sleep there for the night, and in the morning they would continue their journey. And so that fascinated us. And so, our train doesn't move. We've fixed these trains to the bridge. And with that, obviously, we've been able to play with this space and create a five-star experience, which really sort of, has evolved more than what we required by 5-star. We've added a couple of little nice touches to make sure that our guests really have the best time. So the vision, the dream, is now sort of was a developing story, and then we partnered with some really creative people, all in the South African scope of designers, local designers, and have created Kruger Shalati Train on the Bridge.
Well, you've marked 5 years now of operations, which is fantastic. Any highlights or any standout moments that you've had over the last 5 years as you reflect on this time?
Wow, there's so much to reflect on, and 5 years has literally gone so quickly. We decided to open this train in December of 2020, right sort of in between our hard lockdowns, at the back end of COVID. And we negotiated the industry and the arrival of Kruger Shalati at a very trying time. And having been in the industry for 20 odd years by that stage, we had heard of a lot of businesses closing and having to retrench people. And it was quite an interesting experience because, we were actually scaling up, albeit with less carriages that there are now. We had the eight carriages and the pool carriage on the train. And then the other 4 carriages arrived, giving us the 12 and 24 rooms on the bridge as it is now. The biggest thing is the impact I think that we've made in the local community. We really have tried to make an impact into the youth, training these young matriculants, the young youth to give back into conservation and to Kruger. 60% of our staff are from the land claimant group, and this has enabled us to also try and rectify the wrongs of the past and really sort of give a platform for the youth to earn a decent income and have this legacy of being part of Kruger Shalati. So the staff and the service and the food and those things I think are really are major successes for us. Look, there have been some other really sort of noticeable awards that we've won. We've really sort of been acknowledged by the Lux Travel Awards, sort of as the best training experience in the country. We've received an award, the leading safari experience in South Africa. The recent one, though, that I think sort of makes our chest puff out a little bit and feel really, really proud about the team and the efforts and everyone who's involved here, which includes our guests, is we were awarded a 2-key Michelin award at the end of last year, which really sort of speaks to what is going on at Kruger Shalati, and we're incredibly proud of what's gone on. But I think our main thing, of course, the awards are great, but these are great acknowledgements. But for us, it's really all about walking the talk as opposed to anything else.
Well, listen, talking to you at this time whilst you're based in the Kruger Park, it would be amiss of me not to just check in with you on how things are going with the rampant water and rain that you've been experiencing, and considering you're also operating something on a bridge. You're probably well aware of the river, and I think we spoke and you said the hippos and the crocodiles beat you to the rising water. How are things going there?
Yeah, no, thanks so much. We must think about our other concessionaires and other lodges and sandbox infrastructure that has taken an absolute beating through these recent floods. And I think, we all work together as a community of Kruger National Park to help each other and get through these quite trying times. For Kruger Shalati, I think we are perched on top of a bridge, one of the most predominant flowing rivers, the Sabi River. And we've had some great sightings. We've had, the water's come up, but we've never, and thankfully we've never been concerned or worried about the bridge or the safety of our guests or the rising water that was becoming uncomfortable. We have seen some water at a higher level. I think it was 2001, and so we've been monitoring the situation, but. What did happen, it was interesting. A lot of the crocodiles and hippos literally sort of, started moving out of the water, and we started seeing them on land about 5 to 6 hours before the actual river came down. We've been tracking this flood on our live camera, which is available on our website. So if any of the viewers want to actually check in and see how the water levels are doing, it's www.krugershalati.com on the live camera. And there we have 3 views of the river that shows some really great views into how that water came up. We actually have a time lapse of some of how that water came up. But its operations as normal. We are operating on a slightly restricted road network because due to some of the floods that have damaged some of the roads. But we're working with sandparks and still providing a world-class service, food and bev, as well as game drives in the area. So we're still open for business, and we're thankful for that. But our responsibility is also to help with this airport logistics, which keeps the tourism sort of flowing into Skukuza. The airport, it has not closed. It still remains open, and that just means that Kruger Shalati and the other concessions are playing integral part to move people from the airport to the bridge. then guests walk along the bridge to the southern side where their guides, their hosts literally collect them and then get them to their lodges, and vice versa. People catching the plane would then meet on the southern side, and then we make sure everyone gets across nicely onto the Kruger Untamed vehicles. That is our sister property, Kruger Untamed. We get them to the airport for their flights on time, etc. So yeah, it's a massive community initiative, and yeah, the airport management have been great, Airlink have been great, and the other concessions too.
Yeah. Listen, looking ahead at 2026, any exciting developments or enhancements or experiences that visitors can look forward to visiting Kruger Shalati?
Coming by boat is not an option, hopefully. But no, once everything returns to normal, look, we're constantly evolving our offering. We have so much fun with our food and beverage in the space. Our trackside dining is something that is what we created as our version of a Boma, but again, just in Shalati's sort of ethos is we don't call it a Boma, we call it trackside dining, and this is really sort of focusing on our Kruger kitchen and bringing emphasis to this rich Shangaan culture and food culture that we have in this area, and showcasing the potential of really sort of going back to our roots and applying this in a modern way and giving guests potentially something that they haven't had before, but everything comes with a story and an experience. So we're spending a lot of time on this. Yeah, there's a few things in the calendar that we're looking to bring in. We're looking at a couple of chefs collaborations and celebrity chefs to come in and do a collaboration with us, and those details will be out shortly. So I can't really talk about them fully yet, but we're very excited about sort of being the thought leaders in these areas. We continue to develop the properties. We've actually upgraded our areas around sort of some of the private dining areas around the property on the northern deck. We have this little place called Under the Tree, which is quite a fun little space to be. Always moving, always pivoting. We love the space that we're in, and we've got great investors and shareholders and partners in Sandpark that allow us to, obviously within the parameters of operating in a national park, are able to always put the guests first and make sure that they have something special.
And to add to that, the property also has this great Kruger to table philosophy where they bring in elements of the Kruger into the dishes, but that's for you to discover by yourself when you visit Kruger Shalati Train on the Bridge. And if you want to take a first step, they've got a great visitors center as well. So if you go there on the other side of the train or off the bridge, they have a wonderful space where they've got a grab and go. They've got a restaurant, a coffee shop. There's a whole bunch of things going on there, and you can visit that as well. And it's certainly something, I think, if the kids are not going to enjoy it, the adults are going to enjoy it just as much. And Gavin Ferreira, General Manager of Kruger Shalati and the Train on the Bridge, thank you so much for making time to be on the Sandton Times Hour.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Alexander. Thanks so much.
Right, thanks again, Gavin. And that wraps up the Sandton Times Hour for this week. Feel free to send through your questions, comments, or feedback to editor@sandtontimes.co.za. Connect on social media @Sandton Times. Visit the website sandtontimes.co.za and make sure you use the WhatsApp line 084 Sandton. That's 084 726 3866. That's our exclusive WhatsApp line, and you can send through your voice notes, text messages, and media on there. As always, make sure you subscribe to the podcast on Apple, Amazon, Spotify, and many other leading digital audio platforms, and join the growing community there. Thank you to all my guests who made time to be on the show this week, as well as the team behind the scenes pulling it all together for 2026. A special thank you to you for listening, and God willing, we'll do it all again next week.
That's it for this week. Thanks for listening to the Sandton Times Hour. And if you enjoyed it, be sure to share it.